The storm ended before dawn. By sunrise, only traces remained. Rainwater clung to leaves. Mud darkened the village paths. The air smelled of wet earth and olive trees. And Oued Tislit flowed quietly through the valley as though nothing unusual had happened, as though it had not spoken, as though it had not called her name, as though a woman had not appeared within the lightning. Yet Aisha knew what she had seen and what she had heard. No amount of daylight could change that. She slept little. Whenever she closed her eyes, she saw the river. Whenever she drifted towards sleep, she heard the voice, not speaking, not calling, simply waiting, patient, certain, as though it knew she would return, as though it knew she had no choice. That morning, Idris found her sitting outside before sunrise. She held a cup of tea between her hands. The steam rose slowly into the cold air. For several moments, neither spoke. The silence between them had become familiar over the years. A silence built from grief. A silence built from things neither knew how to say. At last, Idris sat beside her. "You were out during the storm." Aisha looked up sharply. Her father rarely noticed such things, or perhaps he noticed more than she realized. "I couldn't sleep." His eyes remained fixed upon the valley. "You should be careful." The words sounded ordinary, yet something beneath them felt different. A warning, not advice. A warning. Aisha studied his face. "When Mother disappeared?" The question surprised even her. Idris immediately stiffened. The reaction lasted only a moment, but she saw it. "Yes? Did she ever speak about the river?" The old man's expression became unreadable. For several long seconds he remained silent. Then he stood, slowly, deliberately, as though choosing every movement. "You ask the same questions every year." "Because nobody answers them." A shadow crossed his face. Not anger, pain, old pain, the kind that never fully leaves. Then he turned away and walked back inside the house, leaving the question unanswered. Once again. The rest of the day passed slowly. Too slowly. Every task felt meaningless. Every conversation felt distant. Every path eventually led her thoughts back to the river, back to the voice, back to the woman, most of all, back to those words. "A river remembers." The phrase lingered inside her mind, following her through the village, following her through the hours, refusing to leave. Near midday, she crossed paths with Youssef. He was leading several goats toward the grazing hills. The animals moved reluctantly through wet grass. Youssef seemed equally reluctant. "You look terrible." Aisha laughed despite herself. "You always know exactly what to say." "I'm serious." "I know." For a moment, he watched her carefully. Then his expression softened. "You haven't been sleeping?" "No." "The dreams again." Aisha froze, only slightly. But Youssef noticed. He always noticed. "What dreams?" Youssef shrugged. "The same ones you've been having since you were a child." Aisha frowned. "I never told you about them." "No." He smiled faintly. "But you talk in your sleep." For the first time that day, genuine surprise crossed her face. "What do I say?" Youssef hesitated. The smile vanished. "Mostly names." A strange chill moved through her. "What names?" He looked away, toward the distant valley, toward Oued Tislit, then back at her. "Your mother's." The words struck harder than they should have. Because they sounded true. Because they explained something she had never considered. Because somewhere deep inside herself, she knew she had never stopped calling for her, not even in sleep. That evening, clouds drifted slowly across the sky. Not storm clouds, gentle clouds, the sort that turned sunset gold, the sort that made the valley seem peaceful. For a brief moment, Aisha considered staying home, ignoring the river, ignoring the mystery, ignoring the voice. She imagined what life might look like if she simply stopped searching, if she allowed the unanswered questions to remain unanswered, if she accepted what everyone else had accepted years ago. The thought lasted less than a minute, because she already knew the truth. She could no more abandon the search than she could stop breathing. As the sun disappeared behind the mountains, Aisha found herself walking toward Oued Tislit once more, toward the hidden waters, toward the place she had discovered during the storm, toward the place where the woman had led her. The valley grew quieter with every step. Birdsong faded. The wind softened. Even the river seemed strangely subdued, as though waiting, as though listening. When she finally reached the hidden inlet, she stopped. The black water remained perfectly still, exactly as she remembered. No ripples, no movement, no sound. The surface reflected the evening sky like polished glass. For several moments she simply stared. Nothing happened. No voice, no singing, no woman, only silence. Then something moved. Not within the water, within the reflection. Aisha's breath caught. The reflected clouds drifted slowly overhead. The reflected trees swayed gently. Everything appeared normal, until she realized something was wrong. Something impossibly wrong. Her reflection was looking directly at her and smiling. Aisha was not. For a moment, Aisha could not breathe. The reflection continued smiling, calmly, patiently, as though nothing unusual had happened, as though it had always been smiling, as though it had always been waiting for her to notice. Aisha stumbled backward. The smile vanished instantly. The reflected face became her own once more, motionless, ordinary, human. The black water returned to stillness. Her heart pounded inside her chest. The evening air suddenly felt colder. She stared at the surface, waiting, hoping, fearing. Nothing happened. No smile, no movement, no impossible reflection, only her own face staring back, a face pale with shock, a face no longer certain of anything. Slowly, cautiously, she stepped forward again. The reflection copied her perfectly. She raised a hand. The reflection raised its hand. She lowered it. The reflection lowered it. Normal. Everything appeared normal, yet the certainty remained. She had seen it. The reflection had smiled, and for a brief moment, it had looked at her. Not reflected her, looked at her. Aisha remained beside the hidden waters until darkness began settling across the valley. The woman never appeared. The voice never returned. The silence somehow felt worse, because silence allowed doubt to grow. Had she imagined it? The question haunted her all the way home. That night she dreamed again. Not of the river, not of the song, not of the woman. This time she dreamed of her mother. They stood together beneath an olive tree. Sunlight moved through the branches above. The air smelled of earth and wild herbs. Everything felt warm, safe, familiar, the way childhood memories often feel, even when they are incomplete. Her mother sat beside her, smiling, the same smile Aisha remembered from long ago, the same gentle eyes, the same voice. For a moment, neither spoke, neither needed to. The silence carried its own comfort. Then her mother looked toward something beyond the hills, something Aisha could not see. The smile slowly faded. Fear replaced it. Not sudden fear, not panic. Recognition, as though she had seen something she already knew, something she had hoped never to see again. Mother? The woman stood, still looking toward the unseen distance. Aisha rose with her. Mother. This time the word sounded smaller, weaker. The fear in her mother's eyes had begun spreading. Then, very softly, her mother spoke. Don't follow the song. Aisha froze. The dream shifted. The sunlight vanished. The olive tree vanished. Darkness flooded everything. "Mother!" Her voice echoed into emptiness. No answer. Only distant water. Only darkness. Only silence. Aisha awoke before dawn. Her heart raced. The room felt cold. The dream remained painfully clear, more vivid than any dream she had ever experienced. She sat upright, listening, half expecting to hear the song, half expecting to hear the river. Instead, she heard only the quiet sounds of the village waking. A rooster, a distant dog, someone opening a wooden door, ordinary sounds, comforting sounds. Human sounds, yet one detail refused to leave her thoughts. Not the warning, not the darkness, not even her mother's face, a single expression. Fear, because until now, every memory of her mother had felt incomplete, soft, broken, faded by time. This memory had not. This memory felt alive. And somehow, Aisha knew it had not been an ordinary dream. Later that morning, she found herself walking toward the edge of the village, toward the small stone house where Lala Zora lived. The old woman was already outside, seated beneath the olive tree, waiting, almost as though she had expected Aisha to come. "You dreamed again." Aisha stopped walking. The words struck her harder than they should have. Lala Zora looked up slowly, her eyes calm, knowing, ancient. "How did you know?" The old woman smiled faintly, then gestured toward the empty chair beside her. "Sit." Aisha obeyed. For several moments, neither spoke. The valley stretched below them, quiet, beautiful, unchanged. At last, Lala Zora broke the silence. "When people begin listening to certain places," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "those places sometimes begin listening back." A chill traveled through Aisha, because somewhere deep inside herself, she feared the old woman was telling the truth. "And what happens then?" Lala Zora looked toward Oued Tislit, toward the river, toward the hidden waters. Her expression grew distant, almost sorrowful. "Sometimes," she said softly, "the river remembers things people have forgotten." Aisha stared at her, and for the first time, she began to wonder whether the river remembered her mother. The question followed Aisha throughout the day. Could a river remember? The idea sounded absurd, impossible, the sort of thing told beside fires to frighten children. And yet, many things had once seemed impossible. A voice beneath the water, a woman appearing and disappearing among the mist, dreams that felt more real than memory, the hidden waters, the reflection, the smile. Each impossible thing had slowly become real, or real enough. That evening, she returned to Oued Tislit, not because she expected answers, because she could no longer stay away. The river had become a question she carried everywhere, and questions have a way of pulling people toward them, especially those who have lived too long without answers. The valley glowed beneath the fading light. Golden sunlight stretched across the hills. Olive trees cast long shadows upon the earth. For a moment, everything seemed peaceful, almost ordinary. Then Aisha noticed something strange. Footprints, fresh footprints, near the hidden waters. She crouched beside them, studying the damp soil. Bare feet, small, narrow, a woman's footprints. Her pulse quickened. The tracks led away from the inlet, away from the river, toward a cluster of ancient olive trees farther down the valley. Aisha hesitated, only briefly. Then she followed. The path grew quieter with every step. The air seemed heavier, older, as though she were entering a place forgotten by time. The footprints continued, clear, unmistakable, always just visible enough to follow. At last, she reached a clearing, small, hidden, surrounded by twisted olive trees older than any she had ever seen. Their trunks looked almost carved by centuries of wind and weather. In the center stood the largest tree. Its roots rose from the earth like stone serpents. Its branches spread wide enough to cast shadows across the entire clearing. And upon its trunk, someone had carved a symbol. Aisha stepped closer. The mark looked ancient, worn by rain, worn by years, yet still visible. A circle. Inside the circle, a single eye. And beneath the eye, waves. A strange unease settled over her. Because the symbol felt familiar, not remembered, recognized, as though some forgotten part of her mind had seen it before, long ago. Suddenly a branch cracked somewhere behind her. Aisha spun around. Nothing. Only trees. Only shadows. Only silence. Yet the feeling returned. The same feeling she had experienced beside the river. The certainty that she was not alone. Aisha. The voice was quiet, barely above a whisper. Yet she heard it clearly. Her breath caught. The sound had not come from the river. It had come from nearby, very nearby. She turned slowly, searching the clearing, searching the trees, searching the shadows. Then she saw movement, a figure standing between the olive trees, half hidden by fading light, motionless, watching, the woman, closer than ever before, close enough to see her face, not clearly, not yet, but enough to realize something disturbing. The woman was not looking at Aisha the way strangers look at strangers. She was looking at her the way someone looks at a memory. For several moments, neither moved, neither spoke. The valley itself seemed to fall silent around them. Then, slowly, very slowly, the woman raised her hand, not to call her closer, not to threaten, not to warn, simply raising it, as though greeting someone she had not seen in many years. Aisha felt a strange sadness she could not explain, a sadness that did not belong to her, a sadness that seemed to drift from the woman herself. "Who are you?" The words left her mouth before she could stop them. The woman remained silent. Her dark eyes never left Aisha's face. Then, without warning, she turned and began walking deeper into the olive grove, not fleeing, not hiding, leading, and for reasons she could not understand. Aisha followed. The woman moved silently through the olive grove, not quickly, not slowly, simply walking, as though she knew Aisha would follow, as though she had followed this path many times before. The fading sunlight struggled to reach the ground beneath the ancient trees. Shadows stretched between twisted roots. The air felt cooler here, still, almost untouched by the outside world. Aisha followed at a distance, close enough to keep the woman in sight, far enough to retreat if she needed to, though if she was honest with herself, she no longer wanted to retreat. Fear remained, but it had changed. The fear she felt now was not fear of danger, it was fear of answers. Fear that the mystery she had chased for 12 years might finally reveal itself. The woman never looked back, yet somehow Aisha sensed she was aware of every step behind her, every breath, every hesitation. The grove eventually opened into another clearing, smaller than the first, older. At its center stood a stone, a single weathered standing stone rising from the earth. Half covered in moss, half swallowed by roots. The woman stopped beside it. For the first time since Aisha began following her, she simply stood there, motionless, watching the stone. Aisha approached cautiously. The closer she came, the more details emerged. Marks covered the surface, carvings, symbols. Many were too worn to understand. Others remained visible, and among them, she saw the same symbol from the olive tree, the eye, the waves, again. A strange feeling settled over her. Recognition. Not understanding. Recognition. As though she had encountered the symbol somewhere before, somewhere she could not quite remember. Then another carving caught her attention, a name, or part of one. The stone had weathered badly, most of the letters were gone, but not all. Aisha knelt, brushed away moss, studied the remaining marks, and suddenly her stomach tightened, because she recognized the handwriting, not the name. The handwriting, the same style, the same curves, the same shape of the letters. She had seen it before, many times, inside her home, among old notes, among forgotten belongings, among the few things her mother had left behind. Aisha slowly rose to her feet, her pulse quickening. Who carved this? The question emerged almost as a whisper. The woman remained silent. Aisha looked toward her. The distance between them had never been smaller, only a few steps. For the first time, she could see the woman's face clearly, and what she saw unsettled her. Not because the woman looked frightening, because she looked sad, profoundly sad. There was no anger in her eyes, no malice, no hunger, no threat, only grief, ancient grief, the sort carried for so long that it becomes part of a person. Aisha felt something unexpected, pity. The realization startled her. For weeks she had feared the woman, feared the voice, feared the river. Now she found herself wondering whether the woman was afraid too. The thought had barely formed when a sound echoed through the grove, a distant voice. Human, calling. Aisha. She froze. The call came again, closer this time. Aisha. Youssef. The woman reacted immediately, not with fear, not with surprise, with disappointment. A fleeting expression crossed her face, gone almost instantly. Yet Aisha saw it. The woman stepped backward, toward the shadows between the trees. Wait! For the first time, desperation entered Aisha's voice. The woman paused, only briefly. Their eyes met. Then she disappeared among the olive trees, silent as mist. Gone. Aisha! Youssef burst into the clearing moments later, breathing hard, his clothes stained with mud. Branches clung to his sleeves. He stopped when he saw her. There you are. Aisha looked toward the place where the woman had vanished, then back toward Youssef. You followed me. I was worried. The answer came too quickly, too honestly. For a moment neither spoke. Then Youssef frowned. His gaze moved around the clearing, the stone, the trees, the shadows, and finally back to Aisha. Who were you talking to? A chill traveled through her, because she suddenly realized something. Youssef had arrived only moments after the woman disappeared. Moments, perhaps less, and yet his eyes showed no sign that he had seen anyone. No confusion, no surprise, no mention of another person, only concern. Concern for her. Slowly, very slowly, Aisha looked back toward the shadows where the woman had stood. The grove remained empty, and for the first time, she began to wonder whether she was the only person who could see her. Youssef did not leave her side on the walk back. Not immediately, not after finding her alone in the olive grove at sunset, not after discovering her standing beside an ancient stone covered in symbols, and certainly not after catching her speaking to someone who wasn't there. At least, someone he couldn't see. The thought lingered inside Aisha's mind throughout the journey home. She wanted to ask, needed to ask. Yet the question frightened her, because there were only two possible answers. Either Youssef had seen the woman, or he had not. And somehow, the second possibility felt far worse. The last traces of daylight disappeared behind the mountains. Shadows swallowed the valley. The familiar path toward Oued Tislit seemed strangely distant, as though both of them were returning from somewhere older than the world they knew. Finally, Aisha broke the silence. "You really didn't see anyone?" Youssef glanced toward her. "No." "The woman." "What woman?" The answer came immediately, without hesitation, without uncertainty. Aisha looked away. "I wasn't alone." Youssef remained quiet for several moments, careful, choosing his words. "When I reached the clearing," he hesitated. "You were standing by yourself." The valley suddenly felt colder. "You didn't see anyone leave?" "No." "No footprints?" "No." "No movement?" "No." Aisha lowered her eyes. The certainty in his voice made arguing impossible, because Youssef wasn't lying. She knew him too well, which left only one explanation, an explanation she refused to accept, that the woman existed only for her. The thought followed her all the way home. That night, sleep arrived quickly, too quickly, as though exhaustion had finally overcome fear, and once again, she dreamed. This time she stood beside Oued Tislit, not the river she knew, not the river flowing through the valley, something older. The water stretched endlessly into darkness, black, silent, still, no mountains, no village, no stars, only water and voices, hundreds of voices. Whispers, fragments, names, laughter, cries, songs, all drifting beneath the surface. Aisha turned slowly, trying to find their source, trying to understand what she was hearing. Then she noticed figures moving beneath the water, not swimming, walking, dozens of silhouettes, men, women, children. Their forms shimmered like reflections, half visible, half forgotten, each carrying something invisible, a memory, a sorrow, a promise. The dream filled her with overwhelming sadness, not fear, sadness, as though she were witnessing something that should never have been lost. Then one figure stopped, a woman. The others continued walking. She remained still, watching, waiting. Slowly she began moving toward the surface, toward Aisha, closer, 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 until Aisha recognized her, the woman from the river, the woman from the grove, the woman from the lightning. For the first time, she looked different. Not older, not younger, simply clearer. And now Aisha noticed something she had never seen before. The woman carried the same sadness she had seen in Si Idris, the same sadness she had seen in Lala Zora, the same sadness she carried herself. Loss. The woman opened her mouth, as though trying to speak. The dream shattered before any words emerged. Aisha awoke before dawn, breathing hard. The image remained. The sadness remained. And for the first time since everything began, a new thought entered her mind. What if the woman wasn't trying to lure her somewhere? What if she was trying to tell her something? The idea refused to leave. Later that morning, she found herself standing before her mother's old chest. The same chest she had heard dripping from days earlier. Dust covered the lid. The wood had darkened with age. Few people touched it anymore. Even Si Idris avoided it. Aisha knelt, resting one hand against the worn surface. For several moments, she simply stared. Then slowly, she opened it. The hinges groaned softly. Dust rose into the air. The scent of old paper escaped into the room. Inside lay folded clothes, a shawl, letters, small belongings preserved for 12 long years. And beneath them all, hidden near the bottom, was a bundle of papers tied with faded cloth. Aisha carefully lifted them out. The cloth loosened. The pages slipped free. Her breath caught. Because across the first page, drawn again and again and again, was the same symbol she had seen carved into the olive tree. The same symbol she had seen upon the stone, the eye, above the waves, and underneath one of the drawings. written in her mother's hand, were 4 words. It remembers everything. Aisha stared at the page, unable to move, unable to breathe. Outside, far beyond the village, the waters of Oued Tislit continued flowing through the valley, and somewhere among the hidden places beside the river, someone was waiting for her return. For a long time, Aisha could do nothing except stare. The page trembled slightly in her hands, not because of the morning breeze, because of her heartbeat. It remembers everything. The words seemed impossible, and yet they felt familiar, dangerously familiar. Slowly she turned the page, then another, then another. Each contained the same symbol, the eye above the waves, drawn repeatedly, obsessively, as though her mother had feared forgetting it, or feared being forgotten by it. Some pages contained only sketches. Others contained fragments of sentences, incomplete thoughts, half-finished observations, questions with no answers. Aisha read every word. The singing returned tonight. It knows things it should not know. I saw her again near the water. Aisha froze. Her eyes moved back to the line. I saw her again. Again. Not once. Again. The realization sent a chill through her. The woman had not appeared only to Aisha. Her mother had seen her too, years ago, before she disappeared. Aisha turned the page with trembling fingers. More notes, more symbols, more fragments. Then one sentence caught her attention immediately. If something happens to me... Her breath stopped. The rest of the sentence continued below. Do not let Aisha follow the river. Silence filled the room. Aisha read the words again, then again, then again, as though repetition might somehow change them. It did not. The warning remained, written in her mother's hand, waiting 12 years to be found. A strange mixture of emotions flooded through her. Fear, relief, confusion, hope. Most of all, hope. Because warnings are not written by people who have given up. Warnings are written by people who know something, and for the first time in years, Aisha felt closer to her mother than she had since childhood. Not because she had found answers, because she had found evidence, proof that her mother had been searching, just like her, proof that she had not imagined everything, proof that the river had touched both their lives. A knock at the door shattered the silence. Aisha quickly gathered the papers. The instinct surprised her, yet it felt natural. The notes were hers now, a secret, a fragile thread connecting her to the truth. The knock came again. Aisha? Youssef. She opened the door. He stood outside holding a shepherd's staff. Dust clung to his boots. Concern lingered in his expression. You disappeared yesterday. So did you. A faint smile appeared, then vanished. I wanted to make sure you were all right. I'm fine. The lie sounded weak, even to her. Youssef clearly thought the same. For a moment he seemed about to press further. Then he hesitated. There is something you should see. The seriousness in his voice immediately caught her attention. What happened? Youssef glanced toward the valley, toward Oued Tislit. Come with me. They left the village together, following a narrow trail leading toward the river. The morning remained quiet. Too quiet. Even the birds seemed absent. Neither spoke much during the walk. Eventually they reached a section of riverbank several kilometers downstream, a place Aisha rarely visited. Youssef stopped, pointed toward the mud. At first she saw nothing unusual, only wet earth, river reeds, animal tracks. Then she looked closer, and her blood ran cold. Footprints, not one set, not two, many, dozens, bare footprints emerging from the riverbank and then disappearing into the earth, as though people had walked out of Oued Tislit itself. Men, women, children, small footprints, Large footprints, old footprints, new footprints, layered over one another. Impossible. Aisha slowly knelt, unable to look away. Who made them? Youssef's face remained pale. I don't know. The wind moved across the river. Neither spoke. Then Aisha noticed something else. Among the countless footprints, one set continued farther than the others, leading away from the river, toward the old olive groves, toward the hidden waters, toward the place where she had seen the woman, and suddenly, Aisha understood something terrifying. The woman had not been waiting for her by chance. She had been waiting for a very long time, and perhaps not only for Aisha. Far away, beyond sight, the waters of Oued Tislit flowed silently beneath the morning sun, keeping their secrets, keeping their memories, waiting.